You were not born ashamed. You were taught to feel small. From the moment you could speak, you learned that your feelings were too much. That your voice was too loud. That your needs were inconvenient. That your silence was safer than your truth. They didn't scream. They didn't hit. They smiled and said, "You know better." And you believed them. Because love felt conditional. Approval felt like oxygen. You learned to shrink. To apologize for existing. To hide your pain behind a smile. To say yes when your soul screamed no. This wasn't discipline. It was programming. And shame was the software. Guilt was the trigger. Together, they made you believe you were the problem, not the system. Now, you are waking up. And what you see changes everything. You fell and scraped your knee. You cried. Your mother looked away. "You're fine," she said. Big kids don't cry. You stopped crying. You learned to swallow tears. You learned to smile when you hurt. You learned to say, "I'm okay," when you were breaking inside. At school, you got a B. Your father sighed. "You can do better." You didn't hear encouragement. You heard, "You are not enough." You told a friend something private. They laughed. You never spoke again. You learned, truth is dangerous. Feeling is weak. Asking is selfish. Wanting is wrong. By age 8, you had already learned, if I am quiet, they will love me. If I am perfect, they won't leave. If I disappear, I will be safe. Shame didn't come with labels. It came with glances. With silences. With sighs. With a hand on your shoulder saying, "Don't make a scene." And so you became invisible. Not because you chose it, but because survival demanded it. As you grew, the rules multiplied. For girls, don't be too ambitious, don't be too confident, don't wear clothes that draw attention, don't speak too loudly, don't say no to men, don't be single past 25, don't choose career over marriage, don't want children if you're not married, don't want children at all if you're not ready, don't be too emotional, don't be too cold, don't be too thin, don't be too heavy, don't be too old, don't be too young. For boys, don't cry, don't talk about your feelings, don't ask for help, don't be gentle, don't be afraid, don't be creative unless it pays, don't be soft, don't be still, always be doing, always be achieving, always be proving. You were taught, if you're not working, you're lazy. If you're not married, you're broken. If you're not rich, you're failing. If you're not liked, you're unlovable. These aren't opinions. They're chains. Woven into school assemblies. Into TV commercials. Into birthday cards. Into compliments disguised as criticism. You're so strong. Meaning, don't break. You're so responsible. Meaning, don't ask for help. You're so beautiful. Meaning, don't let yourself age. You weren't raised to live. You were raised to perform. And performance is the most expensive prison of all. You learned to hate your body before you learned to love yourself. You covered your thighs. You held your breath when you ate. You avoided mirrors. You deleted photos. You bought creams you didn't need. You wore clothes that hid your shape. You stayed up late trying to fix what wasn't broken. You scrolled through images of people who looked nothing like real humans, smooth skin, perfect curves, no pores, no scars, no stretch marks, no gray hair, no tired eyes, no wrinkles, no sweat, no weight, no fatigue, no life. Then you looked in the mirror and thought, I am ugly. I am flawed. I am wrong. I am not enough. But those images were never real. They were manufactured, designed by algorithms, built for profit, made to make you feel small. So you would buy more filters, diets, surgeries, pills, lies. Every purchase was another brick in the wall around your soul. You didn't have a body image problem. You had a system problem. They didn't want you to love yourself. They wanted you to keep buying. And you kept buying because you were told if you were better, you'd be loved. You open your phone. You see someone hiking in Bali. Someone with a new house. Someone with six-pack abs. Someone with 3 children and a perfect wedding. Someone with a book deal. Someone with 1 million followers. Someone with a life that looks like peace. And you think, I am falling behind. I am late. I am weak. I am failing. But you are comparing your inner world to their outer performance. You are comparing your pain to their highlight reel. You are comparing your truth to their carefully edited fiction. You don't see the insomnia, the therapy bills, the silent tears after the photo shoot, the anxiety before posting, the loneliness behind the couple selfie, the exhaustion from pretending, the fear of being found out. Everyone carries shame. Most just hide it better. They use the same script. I am fine. I am happy. I am enough. But none of it is true. Because truth doesn't need likes. Truth doesn't need applause. Truth doesn't need filters. Truth is quiet. And quiet is dangerous. Because when you meet someone truly quiet, you realize they are free. And freedom is contagious. And the system cannot allow it. Shame says, you are bad. Guilt says, you did something wrong. Together, they create a loop. You feel shame. You try to fix it. You work harder. You give more. You apologize more. You say sorry for breathing too loud. You say sorry for taking space. You say sorry for needing rest. You say sorry for having boundaries. You say sorry for saying no. You say sorry for being tired. You say sorry for being sad. You say sorry for being human. Every apology is a surrender. You give them power. You give them control. You give them permission to keep pushing. Because now, you believe you owe them. You owe them your time, your energy, your silence, your joy. You believe you are a burden. Too much. Too demanding. Too sensitive. Too loud. Too quiet. Too much and not enough all at once. This is not weakness. This is design. The system doesn't force you. It makes you force yourself. You become your own jailer, your own guard, your own executioner. You punish yourself for wanting to be free. You starve yourself for wanting to be whole. You silence yourself for wanting to be heard. And you call it discipline. It is not. It is betrayal. And every time you do it, you reinforce the program. You teach your soul, you are not worthy of freedom. You are not worthy of peace. You are not worthy of you. One day, you stop smiling when you are sad. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop explaining why you left. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You stop trying to be liked. You stop performing. You stop pretending. And suddenly, everything changes. People notice. They pull back. They whisper, "You've changed. You're distant. You're not the same. You used to be easier. You used to laugh more. You used to be nice. You didn't change. You remembered. You remembered who you were before they taught you to hide. And now, you are inconvenient. You are uncomfortable. You are a threat. Because you are no longer predictable. You are no longer controllable. You are no longer useful. They don't know how to handle you. So they attack. Through guilt. Through silence. Through distance. Through cold words. Through passive aggression. Through, "Are you okay?" Meaning, "Why aren't you the way I need you to be?" "Did I do something wrong?" Meaning, "Why won't you perform for me?" "You're so selfish." Meaning, "You stopped giving me your energy." "You're so dramatic." Meaning, "You finally told the truth." "You're too intense." Meaning, "You stopped pretending to be light." You are not broken. You are awakening. And awakening is the only crime they cannot forgive. You lose friends. You lose family. You lose jobs. You lose roles. You lose identities. You lose the version of you they loved. And for the first time, you are alone. Not lonely. Alone. And in that aloneness, you hear yourself. For the first time. You hear the voice that has been screaming for years. The one they drowned with noise. With distractions. With obligations. With people who needed you to be small. Now, there is no noise. Just silence. And in that silence, you find your breath. You find your heartbeat. You find your truth. You find your worth. Not because someone said so, but because you finally listened. And you realize, you were never broken. You were never lost. You were never unworthy. You were just waiting. Waiting for you to come home. And now, you are here. And the world feels different. Quieter. Lighter. Clearer. You don't miss them. You don't miss the noise. You don't miss the masks. You don't miss the performances. You miss only one thing, the lie you told yourself. That you needed them to be whole. But you were whole all along. You just forgot. And now, you remember. After the isolation, after the silence, after the letting go, someone new appears. Not from your past. Not from your old world. Not someone who knew you before you woke up. Someone who knows you now. Who sees you, not as the role you played, but as the soul you are. They don't try to fix you. They don't try to change you. They don't try to bring you back. They sit beside you. In silence. And they don't flinch. They listen. They hold space. They don't offer advice. They don't judge. They don't compare. They don't ask why you left. They don't ask why you changed. They simply say, "I see you." And you cry. Not from sadness. From recognition. Because for the first time, you are not alone. Not because you fit in, but because you are seen. And those who see you are not here by accident. They are drawn to your authenticity. Because you no longer hide. You no longer perform. You no longer beg for love. You are simply being. And that is magnetic. Because when you stop running, those who were meant to find you finally arrive. And you realize you were never meant to be with them. You were meant to be with them. And now you are home. Shame is not yours. It was given. Guilt is not yours. It was planted. You were not born broken. You were trained to believe you were. And now you are waking up. You are remembering. You are choosing. You are becoming. You are not returning to who you were. You are becoming who you always were. And the system does not understand. It cannot comprehend. Because it survives on obedience, on performance, on fear, on shame, on guilt. But you are no longer afraid. You are no longer guilty. You are no longer ashamed. You are not perfect. You are not smooth. You are not quiet. You are not easy. You are real. And that is terrifying. Because when one person wakes up, it becomes possible for others to wake up too. And the system fears possibility. It fears truth. It fears silence. It fears you when you stop performing. When you stop apologizing. When you stop trying to be loved. When you stop trying to be enough. When you simply are. And in that state, you are untouchable. You are unstoppable. You are unbreakable. Because you are no longer seeking approval. You are offering your presence. And presence is the most powerful revolution. You are not a victim. You are not a survivor. You are a return. You are the memory of your soul coming home. And now, you know. You are not broken. You were taught to believe you were. And now, you are enough. Not because you achieved. Not because you performed. Not because you earned it. But because you exist. And existence is enough.